So you need to have like really consciousness about the fact that a game most of the time it forces you, to light like a space from each angle. So it really works on 360 degrees and differently maybe from a movie aspect, which is actually where I came from.
In this episode of the Fika Sessions, we meet lead lighting artist Luca Buonamici to find out all we can about light in video games. Hi, Luca.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So nice to have you here. I have a couple of things that I always say, but it's always nice to have someone here.
Yeah, it's super nice for me to be here and have the possibility to show and tell about my job. So it's super
I find it so interesting to, like, we can talk to people that, are more general surrounding games, but in some cases we can get very specific, like with lighting. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about how you work with it. But before, very important for us sitting here, you brought Fika.
Yes, I brought those cookies, which I love, and I'm actually a cookie lover in general. But those ones, which I found in Sweden, and I think it's really particular from Sweden. It's this chocolate flarn. I think it's the right name. Yeah. If it's the right pronunciation, I'm not really sure, but yeah, it works for me. And it's I really love it. Having them at breakfast. It's what I do. I'm probably not really the big Italian, the sweetest part comes in the beginning of the morning, like the day starts with a sweet breakfast. So
that's nice.
I always like to have
I'm sure it's a healthy breakfast, but they are really good, and we have a lot of them. Yeah. So we're going to eat them towards the end.
Absolutely.
But first of all, you work as a lighting artist here, lead lighting artist here at Massive Entertainment. On a top level, what is it a lighting artist does?
Lighting artist is actually the role that it covers what it's really the putting lights in the game. That's mostly what my job is about. It's done to create emotions. It's done to create some sort of experience in the players that can be expressed at the maximum if we didn't have this side, of the metal, I would say. And generally, it's a really vast job that covers a lot of different aspects. Mine specifically is more oriented on the game itself. So I like to work on missions or open world situations or wherever there is actually necessity of adding some illumination into the game. As well, I take care of some aspects of maybe the weather settings, that so sunlight, understanding how the night has to go. How all these kind of situations that of course involves light, and indeed it's a part, it's a really important part of the game, and which definitely has his important role in making the player understand many different things. First of all, as I said, is create emotions. So it's really what maybe can stand on the memory of the people for in the later days. The second is actually what helps you to drives the players. Around the space. To indicate objectives, to indicate where they have to go. To just focalize the attentions on some specific details more than others. So this is all like a big aspect of the lighting in game. We also take part in the process of cinematics as well, which is a little bit more type of the movie approach, of course. And but we also help other departments like UI, effects. To implement every effect that could actually involve lights and have some lighting effect in it. It gets really big when it comes to to create a game in a sense. So the lighting, it's super important part for me, as probably for everyone. But it's also a part of the aspect of the game that it's a little bit underestimated, I would say, because we think a lot about game design, how actually we build a level. I mean, what are actually the objectives, but we don't think that much about how actually the lighting influence. I mean, whole this experience. And
I
of
think you
course,
put it really well when we talked a while ago. You said that lighting art does. We have a lot of aspects here with player guidance and stuff, but what you said once was that you help make the beautiful even more beautiful through lighting.
yes, I think it's a really important aspect. This one is probably the main one. Is actually the part that I've actually enjoyed the most, where you actually have the possibility of improving the work of the others. I mean, to just make that stand up way
Yep.
more, you know. And of course, in game, it has its challenge because most of the time you are not really picturing a single frame. So you have actually movement. The player goes around. You have freedom of like investigating areas or just moving, and this is where actually, I mean, your role comes and gets really strong. I mean, it's where actually you help to understand better the space. You sculpt some areas. You have actually the interest of making understand the place on his integrity.
Yeah.
So you need to have like really consciousness about the fact that a game most of the time it force you, I mean, to light like a space from each angle. So
Yep.
it's really works on 360 degrees and differently maybe from a movie aspect, which is actually where I came from. It gets really different in this aspect because I mean when you are working in a still frame or something like this, you have like an image that it's more or less like a photography. You just decide where the light comes from, and it's just that. When you're actually in a game, you can change the position. So I mean, you are gonna get involved in different like emotions, or just changing like the side of a room. It might give you like a different feeling.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, of course, I mean, we try always to create something realistic, and we try also to create momentum. That of course that can happen. Maybe entering a room that you want to get like this stunning shot, and then you can still walk around. But I mean, the main view that when you enter the room is the one that has to strike the most.
Yeah. The typical walking into and you see the sun rays coming in from the light behind the buildings and stuff
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
So but at the same time, you really need to pay attention of each angle that like the game can allow the player to go. And generally, we want to create a situation where the player cannot get lost.
Yeah.
So getting maybe in a space that is too dark, or or just like not getting maybe too much interesting.
Right.
So we want always to try a little bit the player in this situation to don't make the player waste too much time in order to get bored with the game and say, yeah, where I'm going, what I have to do. You always have some hint here and there, and the lighting really helps in this sense.
You mentioned movies a little bit earlier, and I think that's a good point to talk about how you ended up in games.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career way back in the days, early 2000. And
I feel old when you say that.
Yeah.
Back in the days.
Yeah, I think I'm old as well. Even my doesn't seem so old, but yeah. but yeah. So I started working in movies mainly as a generalist, and then I started working on lighting little by little until I expressly moved to animation movies features, which I delivered like 6 movies, long length movies. It was a great experience. I really love animations, and that was so great experience for me to be able to participate on those kind of projects. After that was 2014 when I had the chance of meeting a person that proposed me actually to join like the video game world, and being really passionate about video games since the childhood. I mean, I'm playing video games really probably since I'm 4 years old, when my father brought me the first Texas Instrument, with crazy games like even probably before Pac-Man or stuff like this. So that was really interesting challenge for me to take. But he had actually a reason behind. It was not just like a challenge that I want to go for and try to discover on the way. I felt back in the days that I was not that interested anymore about how at that moment the movie industries were moving on and the development that the lighting was having while moving to a video game experience and getting in touch with the real-time rendering and other perspective of the lighting itself would have been really nice, both from the side of my personal growth, as well as the possibility of putting like another milestone, along my experience. So getting like strong experience in offline rendering, getting strong experience in real-time rendering. So it would make me a more complete artist in this sense.
What was the first thing you felt like coming from movies to games was the biggest difference in working in light between the two completely different mediums?
I think the main aspect that I found to have to be really different is a little bit like the freedom of movement you have in creating the content and the image itself. In the movie, you pretty much get like some requirement. I mean, you have like a director that tells you, yeah, you need to deliver this.
Yep.
In a game, this is a little bit somehow lighter. Not in the sense that you don't have it. Yes, but because of course you have it. You have directions. You have gameplay directions. You have so many direction taking part of the process. But at the same time, you have actually the possibility of experience yourself and really design yourself the space in the way you want. Of course, keeping in mind the major guidelines that you need to.
How do you work
follow.
with that? I'm thinking about art direction, creative direction, etc. How do you, as a lighting artist, when you start creating these spaces, so we talk about these 360 views where people can walk around in, how do you apply art direction to that?
Well, it's pretty simple. I would say it gets really important, of course, to sit down together with the art director, which is the main figure I'm referring to when creating my content. Of course, I need also to get some visibility of what the gameplay directions we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we want to guarantee some sort of visibility, even if I'm a lover of big contrast images, I might not be able to realize what is in my head, know, because of course I need to, and I might maybe have the same idea of the art director, but that might goes against like a gameplay direction.
Yeah.
So it's not really about what you really like to do. It's more about like realizing and succeeding on putting all the pieces together.
Yeah.
And realize and achieve what satisfies both sides.
Yeah.
So I think it's way it's really that the point. And of course, as I said, I expressly have more contact with art direction because of course it's what lighting is about.
Yeah.
Is about art. It's not really about It's so, as I said, it's still about gameplay as well, but that comes in a second as a second step, I would say. So when I have maybe to iterate a space, first of all I just look at an area. I just say, okay, I'm gonna do my lighting pass. I just start building some lighting directionality, giving some ideas of highlighting some areas more than others, or doing this type of things. And then I sit down with the art direction. We check that out. We try to see if it's the right mood that we want to actually push for the specific mission or whatever it is. And then, yeah, I mean, it just comes step by step, where you then maybe remove some light, you had others, to just create the entire experience, to the final level. So
what I found fascinating when you talk about it is this, again, the 360 view of a room. I was thinking about light, like one of the classic, like really bright images would be from the movie Poltergeist, where you have the big white screen, the TV, you have the little girl sitting there holding her hand. But then if you move that to a game space, you suddenly have the bright screen, but it's like pointing in one direction. You can actually move towards the sides. You can look at, like, how do you create emotion in a 360? You have to cover every single angle in a room.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this comes a little bit handy in the sense that talking just taking back what I was saying before about the difference between movies and games. In games, you have probably to accept a little bit more the reality in itself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how that is actually happening when you have a light, like we have it right now, for example. And if you move to another angle of the room, that light was still always there. So you will have just another feeling, from that light. But at the same time, you want to create that emotions that stays in the mind of the players, of the view or the viewer. Doesn't really matter. I mean, just the spectator, I would say. And that, of course, I mean, you can get, for example, an effect, as you said, of really intense emotion. That it's created by a strong light, a backlight that it's taking on the face of the character is playing the scene. But at the same time, if you move it on the other angle, you might, in some sort, get maybe a different kind of emotion. But that it's actually the ability of the lighting artist to create and to make that as much realistic as possible.
Yep.
In order to really don't go too far. I mean, if you want to really give some sort of feeling when you enter a room, you don't want that to change when you're actually going on the other side,
No.
of the same room. You want to still keep the same focus, same kind of intention. So it's really important that you see this aspect of the lighting being a little bit more projected to the reality.
Yeah.
Because it's actually what we try to do. It's building like a realistic environment, so it doesn't get too crazy. I mean, we don't tend to use extra lights just to build up amazing rim light or type of situation that are not really achievable if you are looking like the same set from another angle.
Right.
So it needs to be a little bit more concerning about this aspect. And so far, I think it's been always super interesting for me to work, especially on open world games, where actually you have really this challenge of tackling like spaces from really every direction. You can reach like a space from any angle, any side. You could just enter like a room, maybe you have like just an entrance door. That's fine. But I mean, at the same time, maybe you have 6 different entrance from the building. You can actually enter from north, from south, and everyone has to anyway give you sort of the same feeling if you are entering like a space that has to give you that emotion.
Yeah.
And it would be the same like on a small level if it's just like a little room, and you want to be sure that when you are actually lighting a space, bigger or small that could be, you can basically allow the viewers and the players, I mean, to understand everything that is around. So you don't want really to take something that stays too dark, because it would be first unfair for whoever put that that chair in that dark corner, maybe, or it just like gives still the idea of what can be important and what not.
Yeah, and that's the next thing that you were talking about, also about guiding the players in this. So you set up the scene, but then you still have to do these tricks to kind of guide the player through the scene.
Yes.
Can you give examples of how that would look?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we generally have intentions of creating stronger highlights for objectives and paths that we need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
That goes pretty much in line with what are the objectives of whatever you are playing, and at the same level, I mean, you still have actually to guarantee, as I say, the maximum understanding of the space you are navigating. So you cannot really forget and let like the imagination go too far. You know, I mean, you really have to let the people understand that maybe it's not really used as that they go that side, you know, more than another side. So you might enter maybe, you know, a space, then there is a corridor, maybe T section, you know, left, right, you need to go left. So and maybe you want to extend the corridor to the right a little bit more because maybe there is maybe a loot or something, you know. So you might have maybe I don't know, like a lantern, you know, placed maybe on the ground, you know, that highlights that loot, you know, just to say, okay, yeah, there is a loot, but there is no really much more in there. And on the other side, maybe you have really stronger highlight that actually calls the player to take that direction because he knows that that's the follow and the path to it's the path to follow actually.
Yeah.
So it's really like understanding the vision of the gameplay situation and put that and translate that with light.
Yep, makes sense. I was also thinking about we talked about creating feelings. Like, kind of what kind of lighting techniques can you use to create feelings? Because one room, you were talking about a corridor. We put some windows on the side, and then there is some nice. You can make it feel warm and cozy in that corridor, and you want to go to the other side, or you through light make it feel really oppressive. What kind of techniques do you work with there?
So I would say there are two really major aspects to see, especially when we are talking about games that use maybe a cycle of time of day.
Yep.
So they are not really locked to a certain situation. So it's way more dynamic. So you might have a situation where you have daylight, and generally when it's daylight and maybe you are outside, or you know, like maybe a room which has many windows or stuff like this, you don't perceive like artificial lighting that much.
Right.
And then you actually really refer on the sunlight and what actually the outside weather is actually creating, and you can maybe think of maybe blocking a window or doing something just to get maybe, I don't know, through some wooden planks and stuff that maybe actually are covering, so you get maybe some nice God rays beams getting inside the room or this type of things. It changed drastically when we come at nighttime, when we really I mean, our work it's definitely way more visible because of course, I mean, you have so much more to rely on artificial lighting. I mean, so, and for this we really tend to create as much as possible a believable environment also when we use assets, for example, which is I would say 99% objects that we use to create the lighting, because we don't really place like floating lights around just to create it.
I was actually going to ask that where the light comes from.
Yeah.
But that's it. The props is the main.
Yes, absolutely. It's being like part of an environment of a scenario. I mean, that it's built to create whatever could be, like a room or no, like a palace or whatever. He has to get something that it's good and is appropriated for the space you are building. You might need to get into the situation where you might need to request something specific, because like some certain space, they would gain something, you know, by having a specific asset that makes light. And of course we could have spotlights, we could have like ceiling lights, like table lamps, or all those kind of objects that we use to create a believable experience, basically. It's what games tend to do. I mean, as much as possible. I mean, you want to really represent something that, as much as can go in the cinematography directionality, I mean, it still stays anchored to the reality, you know. And it's, of course, it depends from title to title. I mean, you might have something super sci-fi and getting crazy type of lighting, super fluo, or other type of things that it might be difficult to find in reality.
Sure.
In general, but at the same time, I mean, even in that situation, you will still tend to create something believable.
Yep.
You will never go like crazy. I mean, in this sense, and because people wants to believe in what they see in
Yep.
the end. So,
Okay. But on a technical level, while you're working on all of this, what kind of tools do you use when working with light?
and that's an interesting part. I would say for us, the job it's really split into side. So the hard side and the technical side. The technical side, I would link it more to how we actually create the experience of lighting using the lighting assets. With that, we want to push some sort of interaction as well with the players. So we come at the moment where we actually have to build a setup for the light that is gonna be used in that particular asset. So he might have you can think, for example, of a half broken ceiling light that maybe it's being held from two cables, and one is actually fold, and that light can swing, but at the same time it actually flickers because it's broken, and it might give you like some cool element, even just for calling the players. Yeah, there's a blinking light over there, so maybe I should go and investigate. And those are whole aspects that we actually build ourselves. We try to understand the better way of creating technically the solutions that allow us, when we are actually putting the light in the game, to get all this experience, and then to decide quickly, okay, what am I gonna do with this? I'm gonna maybe use a blinking light. I'm gonna maybe use like a spinning light because it's a siren, or all this kind of small like particular element that actually helps to create some different experience.
Right.
And also gives different hints about what actually you are doing in the game. Of course, we have a lot of we stay in close contact with the tech art department, which help us to understand what is allowed, what is possible, and what's not. Lighting it's really big in the game. I think that one of the major aspect, and also coming back maybe a little bit of what we were talking before, a super important aspect we need to tackle is the one for performance.
Yeah.
Lighting it's something that it's super expensive in game. It still is, no matter if the technologies are growing, but it's one of the heaviest part in the game that needs to be handled really carefully. We have possibility. We don't have like infinite budget, so we need to be extremely careful of what we do and how we use the light and where we use it, and how we want to push far a light that might cross with some others. So it's always like a really matter of testing and understanding if we can push, or we had to actually remove stuff.
Yeah.
From.
And when we say budget, we mean like memory
Yes,
budget.
yeah, memory budget.
Not money budget.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Just clarify for
no, yeah,
for someone.
absolutely, you're right. Sometimes you give stuff for granted,
Yeah.
But, but they are not. So yeah, it's and that with tech art, of course, we have this strong dialogue to understand where are our limits. As well, we tackle the part of the color grading side, which is something that helps us to create some mood into the lighting itself. And we use it to make it both as a general scale in the game, but also for particular locations that we might want to tweak and
Right.
change from like the general look. That's also like a really important side of our job as lighting artists.
Now, how do you work? You mentioned the tech art team. Like, how do you? Because you must work a lot together with a majority of the other teams.
Yes.
How does that interaction look?
Yeah, it's pretty big. I would say we have a lot of interactions with many departments. Probably the closest we have are both tech and environment art. Environment art. It gets this connection because, of course, we are building the space together.
Yeah.
and we want, of course, to realize something that, of course, it's believable, it's realistic, but also has some connection between what the two departments create together. So, of course, if I have, for example, a room that where I think like actually like a top light would work better for like type of mood that I want to create, and then I maybe find no space because it's just full of pipes or I don't know other elements,
Yeah.
you know, then it gets complicated, you know, to try to find a space and create the emotions I would like to create to do. So it gets really important to participate together in the process of creation and try to build up from the beginning, you know, like and design the spaces you would like to have it.
Yeah.
And propose them maybe as solutions, you know, and hear from them as well. I mean, because you might have great environment artists that have strong lighting like experience as well. So, you know, and then it's actually is a back and forth like dialogue that goes when we create spaces. And that, of course, is it's probably where the teams get closer together, because you really need to collaborate in order to get that sorted in the best way as possible.
Yep.
So it might happen times that for time reason you just jump in spaces and you have maybe to iterate a lighting pass or something like this, and you might find yourself in difficulties because I mean you really cannot achieve what you would like to do. So it's better at that point to go back and tell someone else. I mean you should change that because, you know, now I cannot do it once that place has been already pretty much set up, you know. Yeah. And so it's always really better to go in this process from the beginning. And,
I love this kind of mix between set decoration, emotion design, interior design, like everything coming together, all these different teams coming together to create these believable spaces.
It's super fascinating. I think, I mean, what it's really different, for example, from movies, it's really that. I mean, you have so many other processes to take part in, you know, that are really are super interesting, and you have a lot of dialogues going on, a lot of meetings and stuff, and decisional process that you have to go through. It's super interesting as well. I mean, we have cinematics, so we might help cinematics for their for releasing movies, or maybe the brand team because they want to showcase like an amazing video for whatever E3 or whatever like presentation they might have. And UI, so help maybe like the character creation screen to make it that look really good, you know, stuff like this. So there is a lot of situation where lighting is involved. And of course, I mean, as I said, sometimes it's given for granted because lighting is always there, you know, but there is such a huge work behind, and what it's my role, it's try to let people understand how important that is, and always try to stand a little bit, you know, in the middle of the discussions when it comes in to create spaces and create great game experience.
Speaking a little bit, speaking about performance, but also just briefly looking ahead to the future, to the new machines. There's a lot of talk now about ray tracing. God rays is this classic kind of lighting thing that I think a lot of people get stuck thinking about God rays for some reason, while not thinking about all the other aspects of lighting design. But what do you kind of see the future of lighting in games?
I think it's going to be huge. It's I think it's the right word. We are just the beginning of a new era. And it's going to be really fascinating to see how these new technologies are going to be developed in the future. I think at the moment we are all a little bit blinded by what can happen
by
and
the
what
God rays.
yes, and what it could be. I think that side is actually really interesting. Of course, we are implementing many more like things, a lot of new volumetric effects and stuff that can be supported in ray tracing and things like this. And of course, I mean, everything it works better. At the same time, we are facing many new challenges that of course, I mean, being used to a certain type of workflow, then of course, I mean, you start developing your own type of style, and of course, when the earth like starts shaking on under your feet, I mean, you need to find an assessment, you know. So and of course, I mean, that will come with the time, I'm sure. But of course, I mean, it's really great, I mean, to see this happening, because it really opens so many more opportunities. And we are actually moving way more to exceptional result on the visual aspect, and we are getting way more close into the type of cinematic look, like I would say cinematography look. And yeah, that's super fascinating. I can tell. I mean, many people might know, but some other not. I mean, many techniques are from real time being already used, you know, in movies. For example, like Star Wars. I mean, or you know, they're way pushing this side, you know, of the video gaming getting way more inside the cinema industry. And that also like something that's it's incredible. I mean, to think just if you think of maybe 10 years ago, that when this type of things were a little bit far from being conceptualized, you know. I mean, it's the progression has been quick and slow at the same time, I would say. But I mean, of course, I mean, there is a lot. As I say, it's the beginning of a new era. So it's gonna be just a super fun ride.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to see where you can go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that we are already experiencing some stuff, because of course now with new release of new consoles and new technologies, we are having like the possibility of working on both like the technologies and see really the differences, you know, and we can compare exactly what was before and what would be after. And that looks super cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be really nice to see. Do you have any, if you're sitting there watching, you're interested in light or even become interested in light now, do you have any tips for people that want to get into the field?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say that the main, I mean, I would recommend maybe a couple of books that I read, and they are actually really interesting, just to start and getting confident with the lighting technique, which are pretty much shared both in the cinematography and the gaming side. But I would suggest as much as possible for people to go around and look at art and experience actually the real life and in the different situations. Getting out when it's a sunny day or rainy day or whatever, and just observe as much as possible the details and how everything reacts to the light. I mean, how the shadows are getting softer and harder, and why they get like that way. I mean, what are the reasons? What are the emotions that some type of lighting give to you more than other type of lighting? Watch a lot of movies, especially those from the biggest director of photography, I would say. Yeah, those are probably one I tend to look the most. Getting play a lot of games as much as possible, as well, to understand the where actually the lighting create the emotions, and as well put like the drives the player, I mean, to objectives, and how that is used differently from like a movie, you know. So trying to absorb the differences, and I would say experience for me is the best in general, and of course enjoy some photography in general. Take your camera, go around, try to get pictures, try to understand how some lighting conditions work better than others and stuff like this.
Yep. Movies and games, I can do that.
Yeah. Photography, not that much.
No.
That's fine.
I think it's time for Fika.
Okay, it's good.
They've been
good.
having, let's try these. These are only wafer thin,
Yeah, that's
but they are classic.
These are the double or the single?
No, these are actually single, but you
I
can put the two
but
of
I
them
put it
together.
double because you also have the double.
That's true. That's true.
And
Yeah, you actually asked for the double. But you
no,
got the
it's
single.
fine.
You can build on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that picky. Yes.
If you're in Sweden, get these.
Yes.
They're cheap, affordable, and really good.
Absolutely, and super good.
But thank you very much for coming.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's been amazing to talk about my job and extreme pleasure
Right.
to talk to you.
Anytime.
Yes.
Let's eat.
Yeah. You right?
Thank you so much for joining our Fika today. We put a bunch of useful links in the description, so make sure to check those out if you want to learn more. Also, remember to like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff you do on the internet. Until next time, take care.